Welcome to another episode of Natural Bliss Podcast. I am your host, Joyce Wheeler, and you're going to want to go over to heavenlybodieswellness.com and pick yourself up some excellent organic skincare, or better yet, get some protection against the electromagnetic field by buying Shungite. If you're not familiar with Shungite, you could go to the blog, go to resources, and there you will find a write-up on it. So if you're interested in any services or speaking or oracle readings, you can go to majestictarot.com and check that out. So today I have with me Tiffany Mason, and she is the CEO of VirtuallyYou. When she found herself in an unfulfilling sales position and in the middle of the COVID epidemic, she wondered what else was out there and could she work from home to be available for her daughter. Who knew if the kids would be returning to school? After completing a course based on creating a business around your passions, she developed VirtuallyYou. She is a very skilled podcast manager with a passion to repurpose your podcast content to get your maximum exposure from one episode. She helps podcasters create your web on the web. She also knew she wanted to walk the walk since she'd be talking the talk with her clients. So she started a podcast of her own titled Memories with a Beat. And you'll want to check that out if you love music and hearing others' memories. You can tune in to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, Audible, and other popular podcast forums. Tiffany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share some knowledge.
Yes, please do. So it was during the pandemic that you decided to go ahead and start your own business.
Yes, I think like a lot of other people, I was actually in sales, business to business, and people were like, get out of here. There's a pandemic going on, lady. And I wasn't really loving the job itself anyway. So I was listening to podcasts like crazy while I was driving around doing this sales job. And there was always this lady talking about, your passion. You don't have to be in a day job. You can do your own thing. And so I just kept listening to that, and, little birdie kept chirping in my ear. And finally I explored that opportunity, and music is my passion, hands down. And so I was going to do one direction with podcasts and music, but I ended up taking a different direction. I started my own podcast. And through that, I realized how much I genuinely loved editing. I mean, I could have sat at my computer and edit like all day. I just love it. You go in like this little bubble, and now I take care of about 8 podcasts. And so, listening to just all the different things that people talk about, that's also fun. And I really love it so much. So that's what I've done. I've created a job or a career out of podcast management and just supporting my clients in all things podcasting.
That's really interesting because, and it's great that you offer that service because a lot of people don't like to edit.
Right.
And editing can be very time consuming. That's why I don't do it.
It takes about 3 to 4 times as long as the raw audio. So if the raw audio is a half hour, you're looking at an hour and a half just to edit it.
My husband used to edit the podcast. Excuse me. And he has a full-time job.
Oh, sure.
So he would take days, sometimes weeks or a month to get it edited, and that was when we were just doing audio. Yeah. But now that we're doing video and audio, I'm just like, you know what? It is what it is. This is life. I'm a real human being. I cough. That happens.
Yep.
Stuff happens. What are you going to do? So
that's right.
I'm very interested in the repurposing part of what you do.
Yes. So right now, if anybody wants like some kind of rundown, I actually have a free course on my website right now. It's called the Down Low on Downloads. And the reason why I named it that is because it is all about repurposing. But when you repurpose, you increase your downloads of your podcast. Of course, that goes into the idea. Granted, your material is interesting, to the general public. But generally speaking, you will see an increase because what happens is people have a new episode, they post like, hey, new episode, but then they don't do anything else. Well, unfortunately, social media is just not our friend, and we don't get the exposure we wish that we would get. And so really like a tiny fraction of your friend group, like I think I have 1,400 people that I like on Facebook or something, but only a small fraction of those people actually see anything that I'm posting on a regular basis.
Right.
So the idea is repurposing, right? Because you can only say I have a new episode so many times, right? People are like, yeah, we know you have a new episode. So what you need to do is you're just pulling bite-sized pieces out of each episode and posting about it. So maybe you're posting like from this episode, right? Maybe you post about my free program that I have for your audience to take advantage of. Then the first post would be I have a new episode, right? Then the second one, you say a little bit about the person that you interviewed. Then the third post is maybe an audiogram. So an audiogram is a static picture. It's usually your podcast artwork. And then it's got a waveform going across the bottom. It's a 1-minute segment, and you hope to pull like the juiciest or the most suspenseful or the most, it's a hook, to get them to hopefully say, let me listen to this full episode. And now you've got yourself a new listener. Then the next thing is that you want to post in different areas. So you would want to utilize your podcast, social media, your groups, your pages, your own personal. So it's really just trying to take that one episode and turning it into a million pieces. I mean, you can get 20 plus pieces of content out of one podcast. And again, the idea is more exposure. Maybe people are sharing one thing over the other. You can put multiple motivational quotes that maybe pertain to the topic that you had on that specific episode. There's just so many different ways you can repurpose from one podcast episode. And it's so important to just be, constantly popping up, because you're constantly seeing different people each time your content is popping up. And then the more engagement that you get with it, the more social media gives that content exposure.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of having a little snippet that they can listen to,
Mm-hmm.
because, I know with me, I some of the podcast groups that I'm in, they encourage you to post your, latest podcast or whatever. And it's like, I would like to listen to a little bit first before I decide to go ahead and totally commit. So I think that's an awesome idea. And can I use that?
Of course, please. Everybody should use it. Well, and I also think it's ridiculous. Like, in the groups, people will post a new episode, but then you have to click on the link that they give you, or you have to go look up their link. And it sounds stupid, but our lives are just so fast paced that give me a quick link. And if you can do me one better and give me a 1-minute segment, and I can be the judge right then and there, I don't have to go to a platform. I don't have to click on a link. I don't have to do anything extra. The name of the game is make it as easy for people as possible to find you. So in my show notes, everything is a link. I don't just post like go to www.virtuallyu.com. I don't do that. I put the link so that people can just click, because it just makes it easier for people when you take any of the searching out. And the other thing that I do, I say, well, my own personal practice is like, let's say I'm going through and I hear this audiogram and I'm like, yeah, I want to listen to that. I will click on it, and then I will tell my phone to open it in a screen in my browser. At the end of the day, like, 8, 9 o'clock, when I'm sitting down to watch TV or something, that is a perfect time for me to go, okay, what windows did I open up today on my browser? What did I want to check out? Because I don't always have time, or it'll
Right.
pop up and then my daughter comes in and she needs something. Then before I know it, I'm completely distracted doing something totally different. I'm like, oh, what was that website? Or what was that product? Or, like there's something I wanted to check out, but now I missed out because there wasn't a link. So I just know how busy I am that I'm just trying to help the general public out, get to my stuff as easy as possible. And that's what, as podcasters, we need to be doing as well.
Well, I always put the link. I put the link, and then like in the comments, I'll put the link for them. I'll just put listen and put
Yes.
the anchor link there, so that if they just want to listen, they can go. But I can't imagine why you wouldn't want to include your link. You know, I mean, we want
Yes,
somebody.
some people will just, if they're not like super into the internet world or social media, if they have a slower paced life, they just don't understand that link is a matter of getting that listener or not getting that listener. Another thing that you just said, the tip that I think that you were alluding to is don't put your link in the body of the post, because social media will give less exposure. Just put it in the comments. So I always make that little comment, link is in the comments, and then put it in the comments for your listeners or your audience or, your friends on Facebook or whatever. Still give them the option for it to be easy, but don't give social media the option to give you lower exposure by having that in the body of your post.
Well, usually what I do in the body is I just put latest episode. But now, because I feel like the thumbnail is on there, which explains what it's about. So I feel like I don't need to go into it. But after what you just said about put a little blurb in there, about the guest, or, maybe something interesting.
Yeah.
And so instead of putting a recording, put something interesting. I put the link there, and then of course, it pops up. Yeah. Once it pops up, I delete the link. I don't leave the link there.
Smart.
That's what I do. And because I want to, if it's a longer post, say like I'm going to do what you suggested and like write a blurb about my guest or something, then what I'll do is include the link at the end, wait for it to pop up, and then I'll go ahead and copy the text, so I don't have to keep writing the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
So I'll copy it with the link in there, and then I'll delete the link, and then voila, move on. But I do put the listen in the comments, and then the link for Anchor, and that I do leave. I never thought to do little recording. I'm thinking though, how much time is that going to take for me to sit and listen? I mean, some of my podcasts are an hour long.
So when I'm editing the podcasts that I take care of, I will listen for a segment in that. So when you're in the middle of your interview, you could be saying, oh, that was so good. And let's see, I'm not sure if you can see on Zoom what time we're at. Maybe you could just make a note to yourself in the middle, at the end, where it is that, that your guest said something. And then that's what you'd want to make your audiogram about. So when I'm listening, I have it in my DAW, so it shows where you're doing the editing. So it shows the timestamps. So I'll say like at 12 minutes and 45 seconds, I want to go back to that. And then sometimes I write down like 8 minutes and 2 seconds, and then 33 minutes and 15 seconds. And so I just kind of write down. And then when I'm done with recording the episode and I'm getting ready to make the audiogram, I'll go back and listen to those 3 sections that I wrote down. Sometimes there's only one, but depending on, what the content was, who the guest was, how long the episode was, depends on how many different spots that I'm going to go back and just listen to a little segment, so you could kind of earmark in your brain, oh, I really like when she talked about, XYZ, write that down. And then when you're skimming through, you're like, oh yeah, this is the part where we're talking about it. And then you'd find that 1 minute, and it's very easy to make on Headliner. It's a free platform. You upload your audio, you pick your artwork, and it creates it for you. And then
I think I've been on there before, but I had some issues with it.
Well, you need to download my little workshop because it shows you how to do it in there.
Okay. Well, I've actually have something that's in my computer that I purchased it because the free version limited me from doing certain things. But it was software that I got from the Google Play Store.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not up on that. I'm not about apps. So it's like my daughter opened the phone and she's got all kinds of apps. I'm like, geez, no.
Yeah, I do most of it on my computer just because it's a larger screen. But you can do a lot of it from your phone too.
No. I'm all about my laptop. It's like I am not, and the thing is too, is like I did not have a cell phone until I married my current husband. So my first husband passed away in 2004. We got married in 2005. So around 2005, 2006, I had the flip phone. And actually, we had flip phones for a long time. We upgraded because of my business so that I could take the Square or PayPal, the chipper card
Yeah.
reader. They was basically the only reason we upgraded. Otherwise, we'd still be walking around with flip phones.
Hey, you know, if it serves your purposes, it's a smarter thing to do. Why pay all that money if you don't need all the functionality?
Right. And
Yeah.
I think that the phones and all this messaging and stuff, I think it's like separated us
Oh,
to
for
where
sure.
we don't have the human contact. And I prefer, I mean, if one of my friends texts me, it's somebody I know I can call, I'll just call them. It's like, I'm not going to sit here
Yeah.
because I can't do like this. So it's like my daughter, right? It's just like, whoa, dude. And not only that, but then they use all these abbreviations.
Yeah.
What the heck
And
is
I
that?
spell everything out. I don't use any abbreviations
See,
really.
I do too. And
I
because
use FYI and ASAP. The old traditional ones.
I do use a LOL.
Okay, I use that one too.
Yeah. But not all the stuff. My son sent me something one day. I was like, what does that mean? This might be a
Yeah.
whole other podcast.
I think so. Well, one thing I was going to point out about the repurposing is that, you know, a lot of people have VAs, right? And they're doing some of the
Yeah.
social media for them. What's good is that VA doesn't have to spend time researching. That VA can just take bite-sized pieces out of the episode and promote and market the business. And really, this is for anybody who, you don't even have to have a podcast to do repurposing. I mean,
Yeah,
if you had
blog.
a blog, a
Blog.
Facebook Live, any of
Mhm.
that stuff, you know, you can pull bite-sized pieces out. If you do a blog about a person or a blog about a product, now you can post a picture of the product and say something about it, you know, good, bad, whatever, however your blog was about it. But if it blows my mind that people are trying to find all this new content, right? Like everybody knows the name of the game is multiple exposures, but how do you get that content to continue posting? Well, take some bite-sized pieces out of your podcast episode. It makes it a lot easier on you.
That's an awesome idea. I love that idea. I'm going to go ahead and try that. And that's one thing with, I blogged for a long time. I don't do a whole lot of blogging now because I'm doing other things, but I had started
A lot of other
blogging.
things.
Yeah, I started blogging back in 2012, and then they were talking about repurposing the blogs, like making an ebook out of it, or
Yes.
oh, maybe that's something they could do too, is like create just audio depending upon the content. I mean, I'm sure there's just like a blog, there's depending upon what your podcast is about or what you're talking about, consolidate it all like into one. For
Well, the
instance,
other thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I wrote numerous recipes in my blog. Well, I recently just pulled them all together and turned it into an ebook.
Yes. Yep. Well, and I was going to say too, for yourself being a speaker, you can pull different transcripts from your episodes or different blogs, and that could be a speech for you now.
Wow.
So if you're like, what do I want to cover? You could easily look it up. I'm so sorry. You can easily look it up.
You want something to drink?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, you can, pull in those little pieces, and now you have a speech written for you that you didn't have to like bog your brain. Just go through the previous content that you covered, and now you have that, or an ebook. That's another idea that I've had too.
Right.
Yep.
So
repurpose and get new products.
Right, exactly. So for that, what did you call it? Something gram, voicegram, audiogram. How long should that be?
1 minute. And I will tell you why. You can make them up to 10 minutes.
Whoa.
Okay. So yeah, you can make them up to 10 minutes, but the reality is nobody's going to listen to it for 10 minutes on social media.
Right.
You could do a longer one if you wanted to post it to your website. And the other thing is that a lot of people want to post their episode to YouTube. And so like my podcast host will send it right to YouTube. Other ones won't. So in that case, you just upload your entire episode with a piece of artwork to Headliner, and that will turn it into a video that now you can post onto YouTube. But the reason why I originally said 1 minute is because Instagram will only let you post 1 minute.
Gotcha.
So if you want to be able to use it on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the things, 1 minute is what Instagram will limit you to. So try to find the juiciest 1 minute that will really hook your audience and post that.
Excellent. Excellent. So do you have any other little tips you wanted to share with the audience?
I mean, just overall, it's important to, once you have these bite-sized pieces. So I have a couple of clients, and every episode they get an audiogram and then they don't utilize it. I would say if you've made the content, utilize it. The other thing is, as popular as we all think that we are, everybody has not seen everything that you've ever posted. So
Right.
there's nothing wrong with going back into the archive a little bit and reposting something, maybe a motivational quote, or like I did these little stick figure guy videos. And so that's something that I would like to repurpose and repost because they're timeless, really. They don't, it's not like for the next 5 minutes, blah, blah, blah is happening. It's this guy talking about how great my editing services are. And so that's something that you can repurpose as well. It doesn't even have to be that you have, restructured it or done anything specific to it. You can simply reuse it and call it repurposing. And it saves that much more time and everything. And then just doing the audiograms and all the things that you have worked up. Okay. In that little program that I have that you can download, it has a content planner in there and it gives you an idea. So it says like episode 13, right? Let's say that you're working on episode 13 and it tells you, so on the right-hand side, it has a list of all the places you could post something, LinkedIn, Facebook page, Facebook group, Facebook stories, Facebook, your personal feed, right? It's got like all the things. And then it will also show you how to go into your insights. So in Facebook or in Instagram, you can go to your insights and it will show you when your people are engaging with your content. That's when you want to be posting, right? So it'll give you a good frame of time of the day that you want to be posting. And then you can also see where you're getting more action. Are you getting more action in stories or on your feed? And so then, like when I post something, like I'm gonna, schedule 5 posts. When do I want those posts to go out? Well, looks like my people are active around 3 o'clock. And it looks like on Thursdays and Tuesdays around 10 a.m. and Saturdays. Okay, that's when I'm going to post 3 pieces of content, right? Now you get to decide what you're going to use. Oh, and the best tip I haven't shared with you guys. Okay, get your pens and paper ready. Okay, right now, Instagram is really focusing on Reels because they're trying to compete with TikTok. So they're giving a lot of exposure, right? Okay, if you go into Headliner or any of the programs that make an audiogram, make your audiogram, save it to the camera roll of your phone. Go into Instagram, say you want to create a reel, pull in that video, you've got a reel. They're just giving exposure to anything that is deemed a reel. So you just have to format it as a reel. The other thing that's nice is like sometimes I put like goofy little GIFs in there or, little fun sayings. You can put hashtags in there. You can actually put music in there, but if it's your podcast, you probably don't want music in there. But it's a great way to kind of cheat the system, turn your audiogram into a reel. They're going to get if most things that I post, I probably get 30 to 50 people to see it. Okay. If I post a reel, I get anywhere from 1,500 to 2,500 people to see it. So it's dramatically different.
Okay. And but that's just on Instagram though, right?
It's just on Instagram. Facebook has reels too, but man, they can only be like 15 seconds or something. If you go through Meta Business Suite, it's a whole different ballgame on Facebook. So in that respect, I would just post my audiogram. Another thing to consider when you guys are creating your audiograms, it will give you an option if you want a caption on there or not. I would strongly encourage a caption. There have been so many times where I'm going to say it. I've been messing around on social media on my phone while I'm using the restroom. I think a lot of people do it. So
Yeah.
don't dog me out. I know you all are doing
Oh,
it too.
they definitely do. I've been in public restrooms and people are
Yes.
sitting on the toilet, you know?
Yes. So that's not really a great time to listen, right? I mean, you
No.
could, some people do, but ideally you're trying to be quiet and discreet about it. So if you have the caption, they can read what you're saying. The other thing is we do have folks in our community that are hearing impaired. And so it gives them the opportunity to see what this podcast is all about. You know, so there's lots of different reasons why you'd put the caption on there and why you would want to repurpose it into a reel. And then of course you can post the reel into stories, or you can post the audiogram into stories. So, you know, you're getting to hit all the different important areas without making anything new. And that's the game of repurposing. And when you repurpose and get that higher exposure, you are also able to increase your downloads because you're getting new listeners.
So is all this information included in that free course that you have on your website?
Yes, ma'am. Yep. So if you go to www.virtuallyouva.com, you will see that the very first thing at the top says down low on downloads. So it's like, you know, the skinny on downloads, right? And so it'll walk you through all of the things. It'll walk you through looking at your insights, creating an audiogram, planning where to put everything. And I think that the free, the worksheets are included in there as well at the bottom. So tons of information in there, completely free. Go get it. Don't pull your hair out trying to figure it out. Don't watch any more YouTube videos. It's very easily spelled out for y'all. Just go download it, utilize it, make your podcast heard by more people.
So do you create the audiograms for people? Is that part of what you do?
I do. Yep. So in my launch package, they're included. And if you have a monthly service with me, they're included. So I guess, yes, they're included. Yes, you get an audiogram and you get an audiogram and you get an audiogram.
So what other ways do you work with people?
Well, I help them with their podcast to launch it. And then I do all of the editing, show notes, I'll get it published. And then another tier of my services is that I can repurpose for you as well. So just, I always say supporting you in all things podcasting.
There you go. Tiffany, it has been great having you on the podcast today. Thank you for your time.
Of course, no problem at all. Thank you so much for inviting me, Joyce.
It's been a very interesting conversation. And some really good information. I mean, I've been podcasting since 2015.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I'm hearing about the audiogram. I never heard that. And even in all the other podcasters that I know, we're not talking about this.
Well, we're talking about it.
There you go. Thanks again for being on the show.
Of course.
All right. Okay. Thank you for watching, listening. Go ahead and like and subscribe and share. And y'all just keep on shining.